I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today some interesting things obviously happened over the weekend. So we'll be talking about a little bit about Operation Epic Fury, which I wonder who came up with the title, but Epic Fury is appropriate. So Iran was attacked by the U.S. and by Israel. It's interesting that there's some people out there who are trying to frame this as the U.S. doing something for Israel. Even like a mutual of mine on TikTok did a live like, "Are you ready to send your children to die for Israel?" I'm like, we have our own beef with Iran, and we have had for a very long time. And I'm going to share a story that I shared on Facebook and TikTok already, so maybe some of you have heard it. But when I found out the news, my dad had called me and he reminisced about a story about Iran going way back when, and many of you will be familiar with it when I actually get into telling the story. But it's a long time coming, especially with Trump saying his red line. You can't just do red lines and not really do anything. I mean, that's people think you're weak, think America's weak, the president will be weak. And Trump is just not that way. He's just not that way. Is he pro forever wars? No. Which Pete Hegseth is like, this is not a forever war. Don't listen to people who are trying to tell you that. These are precision strikes that have overwhelmed Iran. Certainly, and I don't believe that Trump is gonna just nation build, and it is up to the people to decide what to do. But there's a lot of interesting things going on the ground that have prepared for this moment. It's not like Trump just woke up one day and was like, let's bomb them. So there's people trying to use words of Charlie Kirk from the past, saying that he didn't want regime change. And I think at the end of the day, Charlie Kirk, by the way, Charlie Kirk isn't always right, or wasn't always right. I didn't always agree with Charlie Kirk. So I don't think that he has to be the banner to which all people on the right look toward. I think a lot of people who are trying to use his words, a lot of them are really bad actors who didn't like him too much anyway, didn't respect him too much anyway. But I think at the end of the day that he would have been pro, I trust President Trump, let the president cook. I don't know what the direct outcome is going to be, but let him cook. I trust him. That's my friend, because that's what he has said before after striking Iran. So we'll be talking about that. There was also a terror attack in Texas, and it seemed to be religiously motivated and politically motivated, because I did see a picture from CBS. I'm not going to show it because it's bloody, but of the and it was a reporter from CBS who posted and claimed that they had exclusive image of, which I had heard the report before, of this terrorist with an Iran shirt underneath his hoodie, which his hoodie said "Property of Allah," and he's a West African immigrant who did become a citizen of the U.S. He had an overstayed visa, and then he got married. And when you get married, that does help you keep your citizenship. But apparently, I think according to Chip Roy, it looked like he divorced and remarried a few times. So we'll have to look more into that story. But Speedy, from what I read, response from the police, it was like 57 seconds, and he still, from what I last read, had killed 2 people, wounded 14. So I'm glad they got there as quick as they did. But before we jump into everything, I do want to encourage you guys, go blacktenews.com, check a different content website, articles, videos, etc. If like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at the website, because it does cost a stream. Or on my side, all that gets us, guys can support. I very much appreciate it and appreciate you guys. I had alluded to something going on last week that was family specific. Um, just continue to keep me and my family in your prayers, and I'll get more specific later. But there's still a lot going on right now, and it is like bad news. Hope, but just keep us in your prayers if you don't mind. So my schedule might be interrupted at some point in time this week, and I'm not sure when. But just be on the lookout for that. I'll try to stream when I can and keep the schedule, but I'm not positive if I'll be available every time as on my normal schedule. It's I might have to not stream on Friday definitively, because this Friday it's our church weekend anniversary, and we have a gala every year to support a pregnancy crisis center. We usually have it on a Saturday, but we're going to have it on Friday this year. So this Friday, when we normally have church, I'm like, see, I got to go to church. We're not going to do that this year. Because this year we're actually having our gala on that night, this Friday. So I'm assuming I'll probably have to leave earlier than normal, that I leave for church to get things ready and get dressed and so on and so forth. So I probably won't be streaming on Friday, at least for that. It's for a good cause. We do raise funds again for this pregnancy crisis center. So we take the money that we get from there, the people we get from whatever ticket sales we make, and from whatever people decide to donate that night. And we go and we buy diapers and all kinds of other things that the pregnancy crisis center needs. And then we also do an additional drive where people will donate different things that the pregnancy crisis center needs. And then we go ahead and we pray over all the stuff, and then we go and we bring it to the pregnancy crisis center. So this is the third year we've done the gala, but we've been doing when did Roe v. Wade get overturned? Ever since Roe v. Wade got overturned, that's when we decided to start doing the drive. So we've been doing it for a while, and so I'm glad to be doing it. And if anybody wants some more info about it, if you live in Michigan, if you're kind of around my area, you like to go, I'm going to be singing, and there'll be other nice things going on. You guys can DM me and I'll send you some more info. But that'll be a really really great night. So anyway, let's hop to it. So on Saturday, I guess it was, I got a phone call. I had woke up I stayed up pretty late. I was working on my book and stuff. Actually, I think I was working on an article actually. But I fell asleep like on my computer, typical. And I woke up about 9:00, I think, and I immediately just started writing, as opposed to just looking up any news or anything. Just started writing, and then I got a phone call from my dad, and he said, "Hey, have you seen the news?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." Well, he got first asked what I was doing, and I'm like, "I'm writing right now." And then he's like, "Oh, well, we attacked Iran." I was like, "Oh, I didn't see that." So he's like, "Yeah, we did it early that morning." And so it was really, really early when the attack had happened. So it had happened hours ago while I was obviously sleeping. And so he started saying, "Yeah, I remember back when, your mother and I was dating." And this is like date number probably like 2. It's like really early when they started dating. And so this is like 45 years ago, I think, about 45 years ago. And so he's like, "We were dating, and so we were out, and I saw on the news that they were talking about Iran and whether we're going to go to war with Iran. And I had to stop and watch your mother because I wanted to know, because this was really, really important. And I wanted to know how she was going to respond, and if she was going to stop and pay attention to this, because it was really a really important thing going on." And then she stopped and she paid attention. And then I knew that she was the woman for me. And so when my dad tells that story, sometimes people are like a little freaked out, and they're like, "Men pay attention like that?" Yep, men pay attention to like things like that. Women pay attention to things like that. So, I mean, I guess it's not something you need to stress over. If you're the right person, you people will see that you're the right person. But, adults should care about important events going on in the world. And so I was like, "Oh, that must have been the hostage situation." And it was. And so in Iran, there was American hostages that were kidnapped for like 444 days, some absurd like that. 66 Americans, including diplomats and other civilian personnel. So that was a huge deal. I had posted, this kind of recollection on my Facebook, and someone who I guess is about the same age as my parents, because they were in their 20s at the time when this happened. And they're like, this was a huge story at the time. And there was like nightly news reports about it. And I didn't know how much my mom disliked Jimmy Carter until we were having a conversation one day. And she's like, Jimmy Carter is a douchebag. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know that she knew that word. I never heard her say it before. It was the only time she used that word. And we were like, what did Jimmy Carter do to prompt that kind of response? And so she started complaining about the hostage crisis situation, but and I guess that stayed with her. And she's disliked a lot of other presidents, but that Jimmy Carter was the worst of the worst to her. So I brought that up beginning my conversation with Iran because there's been beef a long time. People talk about forever war. We've kind of been in a forever war with these people, and they've been a state sponsor of terror. So of course they've been a thorn in Israel's side for the longest of time, but they've also been a thorn in our side and has resulted in American deaths. The help that they've given to terrorists with different technology that has led to direct American deaths. It has not gone forgotten. And then there were at least 2 attempts from intel that we have that they tried to take out President Trump, which President Trump did mention to a reporter. He's like, well, they tried to get me twice. I guess I got them first. Which is a heck of a thing to hear on a phone call with the president. And it's interesting that the press has such accessibility to President Trump that they obviously didn't have with Joe Biden. So to just call the president and say, hey, what's going on with you guys attacking Iran? And they can have a nice little conversation with the commander in chief. Very, very different than what happened before with Biden. So a lot of people complaining as if this is out of the blue, or again, if this is just for Israel's sake. Israel is a good partner, as our Secretary of War noted. They are a good partner because they are capable, they are effective, and they have good intel. We had good intel. It was actually our CIA that discovered where the leaders were and launched the attack in the morning, which isn't normally done. People go and they strike at night and stuff, so they weren't expecting it. It had all these important people together, so they acted on the intel, got them by surprise, and they're like 3 levels deep of folks that they have taken out. And Iran right now is not in good shape as far as their leadership goes, and there are Iranian people celebrating everywhere. I saw so many videos over the weekend of people just celebrating, so happy. And it gave me chills watching some of these videos, and it made me so appreciative to live in the United States of America. I know there's crazy leftists who would be crying and celebrating if Donald Trump was murdered. They did that with Charlie Kirk. They would certainly do that with Trump. Of course, they would be completely deranged, but these people celebrating, again, it just gave me chills. I'm going to go ahead and play a video of someone someone reacting to it, because I couldn't. Well, I guess I could find. I don't know about the original, but there's other reaction videos. But I just decided I would go ahead and play this one. But the emotions from these people is just really incredible.
So if you're unable to tell, this is an Iranian woman figuring out that Khamenei is likely dead. And she's speaking Farsi. And when I first saw this, I got chills. I have chills right now rewatching it.
I do too.
This makes me proud to be an American. The Iranian regime under this man's leadership has been a state sponsor of terror. For example, they support organizations like Hezbollah. They support organizations like the Houthis in Yemen. Hezbollah is in Lebanon. And then they also support Hamas, which Gaza. Hamas is a genocidal terrorist organization. Quite literally, they are a genocidal terrorist organization. These organizations have no problem targeting and slaughtering civilians. They see it as a legitimate way of doing things. For example, we know Hamas went into Israel and indiscriminately murdered as many people as they possibly could and took hostages. Even then, I saw a live video of a man trying to behead another man with a gardening tool on October 7th. These are the type of people and organizations that the Iranian regime has been supporting. You can see it bleed over into America because now we have people in the US who are saying they support Hamas, which then is working to legitimize terrorism as a way of doing things in the United States. I think we should be doing everything in our power to stop that and fight against it. And we seem to be cutting the head off the snake. Don't forget, this regime recently just killed tens of thousands of their own civilians for protesting against them. This regime cares about supporting its terrorist proxies more than it does about the prosperity of its own people. They're not even able to keep enough water in their own capital. Yes, there's a water shortage in Tehran. On top of that, inflation, the currency is essentially worth nothing. This regime has consistently made people's lives worse and slaughtered them when they stepped out of line. I'm also glad to see Trump making good on his word. But I want people to see how happy Iranian people are about what's happening. There's going to be a lot of people who will never show you that and just try to demonize our country for doing what it's doing. I don't think it should be demonized. We're helping people. But that's it for now. Don't forget I have a free email newsletter. The link.
That's Jeffrey Mead, the guy talking right now. He's on, I don't know where all platforms he's on. I think he does have an X account, but he's on TikTok for sure. I met him in person last year at the Black History event at the White House. He is so tall. He is, I don't know, he's got maybe 6'6". He is so tall. I usually will wear heels and stuff when I go out a lot of different places, but to the White House, I wasn't going to do that because I would just destroy my feet. So I had on these comfortable flats. Actually, I was breaking them in so they weren't so comfortable, but they're very comfortable now. But they were okay, but standing as long as we did, waiting for Trump, they got uncomfortable. But he is, I have a picture with him, and he just makes me look so little, not little. I'm still wide, but he's so tall. I couldn't believe it because every time you see him, I mean, you can't tell from, I guess, videos anyway, but he's always sitting down in a chair, and you just always see like that much of his head and chest. I wasn't prepared for how tall he was. So just a little FYI, if you follow Jeffrey Mead and you do not know that he's like a giant, he's like a giant. Anyway, so yeah, I saw that video. I saw other videos and just, I was struck by how emotional these people were just being that happy. And I'm just it just made me so grateful to be in America. And so yesterday when I was in church, when I opened up doing like praise and worship, I sang a song. What did I sing? Closer. I think maybe it's a Bethel song or something. I want to know your heart. I want to know your heart. Because your love is so much sweeter than anything I've tasted. Yeah, so I did that song. But before I started singing, I just started talking about this a little bit and how happy the people were and how oppressed they were in Iran and just other places around the world. And there are Christians in Iran. And I did see a video. I don't know if this was around this time, but someone had posted a video of Iranian Christians singing Waymaker, which is a wonderful song. I love Waymaker. And I love when you can just see a corporate body of Christ just coming together and singing that song. Just amazing. But there's so many people who are in danger from just raising their hands and praising God. And it just made me so grateful to live in a country where that's not a concern. Like we can feel a little awkward and maybe social pressure and things like that. And there have been Christians who have been, persecuted for their faith in some kind of regards. I mean, the whole Don Lemon thing, they obviously went in that church to harass a bunch of Christians. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but compared to how other people live around the world or other Christians live around the world, we're so blessed to be in the United States of America. So I just, really press to the church. I'm like, let's really worship today. Let's really be grateful. Let's really praise the Lord for the opportunities that we have to be here in this great nation. And man, we did have a really good worship. We had really good worship yesterday, and I just sang the song, and after I was finishing singing how I usually sing the song, I prolonged it a while because I was just kind of feeling it, and started going into just flowing and ad lib and making up different kind of words and leading the congregation. And then we went to our next song and then another song. We just had an amazing time. And we had my cousin, the Lord had given him something the night before. He was praying all night, and then he gave a word to the church, which was great. And then we had a communion, and my pastor, my brother, delivered a really good word. We just had a great time. And I really think it just kind of started off that service good, just expressing gratitude. So much gratitude to live in the United States, in the year 2026. Not some other time when it wouldn't have been like fun for me as a Black woman, but I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. So if anything, I guess I just want to put that out there and take that into account, that we're blessed to have the liberties that we have. Even like there are people celebrating about Khamenei being dead, and then some people in the comments were like, oh well, but I don't care how much you hate this guy, he's not worse than Trump. And then they just got flamed in the comments, just totally flamed. And people are like, what are you talking about? They killed like 30,000 protesters in a couple days. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and there are even people saying I'm left wing, but this is crazy. Like, this isn't true. Trump is obviously better than these psychopaths who've killed all these people. And some people try to bring up ICE, and they're like, no, it's not the same. You ungrateful, privileged Americans. It's not the same. So I was very happy. I didn't have to engage again, and I could just read all these comments where they're flaming these really dumb people. And maybe some of our kids. TikTok, there's really dumb adults, don't get me wrong, but TikTok does sway young. So maybe it's just a really ignorant high schooler or middle schooler, or unfortunately college aged kid, I don't know, or adult, saying dumb stuff that they're used to just repeating with no sense of the rest of the world. Yeah, I don't care how much you don't like Trump or Biden or whatever. It's not the same. And if it was the same, do you think people could do all these protests all the time against Trump, against ICE, and there just wouldn't be more dead people? One time, very early in the Trump administration first term, when my sister was working at the RNC, I went to go visit her, and I was like, Gina, there's some protests going on in the White House. What are they protesting for? And then she said, they protest at the White House every day. She said, there's a protest in front of the White House every day. You think you get to do that in a place that's not free? You think you get to do that in a place that's not free? The craziness that the people did in Minnesota, following the ICE agents, harassing them, obstructing them. That was the point of them following them with their stupid little whistles. not to just record what was going on, but they wanted to harass them and impede their investigations and detaining of these people. And some of them did get violent, like Alex Preddy in the encounter before he was killed kicking out the taillights, spitting on the cars, telling them, fight me, harass me, or whatever he said, as he instigated against them. If our government was so tyrannical, if Trump was so tyrannical, why aren't more people dead? Why aren't more people dead? If our system allowed him to be tyrannical. I've heard great remarks from different professors saying, like, you can't even really be that fascist or whatever in the US because our system doesn't allow for it. When the Supreme Court or somebody strikes down Trump, he doesn't just try to ignore him. He's like, okay, well, I'll just have to find some kind of other maybe legal mechanism, or he pouts and he moans. I didn't like when he called out the Supreme Court justices at the State of the Union, by the way, but that's he can't just be like, I'm gonna do a supreme ruler. He can't do that. We are so fortunate to live in the United States of America. So I'm glad to be here. I'm blessed to be here. My heart goes out to so many people who have to suffer in these terrible regimes, and I do also, some people have the attitudes like, just make all these places parking lots. Just, there are good people who want to live their lives, raise their children, who perhaps worship the same way that you do, but except they have to do it in secret. Which you shouldn't be like advocating like full destruction of everybody, I think, if you're a Christian anyway. But just keep that in mind. But there are people who are very happy about what happened in Iran, and I'm glad that they feel like they're free. Of course, we won't know all the repercussions of epic fury for some time. It's been a few days. People flipping out about forever war. It's been a few days. When they attacked Iran, that was what, 12-day war or whatever. It's not gonna be a forever war. Trump doesn't like forever wars, but he did promise that he was willing to blow stuff up. So that's another thing. So people are like, Trump said he was against starting wars. Okay, doing some strikes is not the same as a war. It's just not. He's not for forever wars. He condemned those. We don't have to do all this boots on the ground stuff, which, by the way, the Bush strike stuff, that happened pretty quickly too, but they kept evolving their objectives and evolving their missions, and decided that they were going to be the ones to kind of like walk these people into living a life of democracy and stuff. And it didn't, and I don't know, maybe they could have got there, but to change the minds of the people who are used to doing things a certain way, that you're going to have to basically raise up a new generation that loves freedom, the same kind of freedom that we have. But how long will that take? More than 20 years, apparently. More than 20 years. I read something the other day about the Taliban taking over and doing something really weird, horrible with the women. Let me see if I can find the headline. I got a lot of stuff saved, so I don't know if I'll find it, but it's a shame if you grew up experiencing liberty, kind of with the Americans there, and then just the quick withdrawal, and the Taliban taking over and deciding, nope, women, you don't get freedom and liberties, and you got to wrap yourself up or else. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to find it real quick. I might have to just repost it for you guys later. It was something about how something terrible that they were doing toward women, but I guess you can use your imagination. Found it. CNN International. Taliban authorities in Afghanistan have issued a decree that makes sodomy punishable by death and allows men to beat their wives so long as they don't break bones or leave visible, lasting wounds. Human rights campaigners have decried the move as devastating and warned that women's recourse to justice would be further curtailed. Yeah, I'm not surprised. There are things in the Quran about beating your wife, by the way. I saw a video where someone was bringing that up to a Muslim, and they tried to be like, no, it's just like a quick that's if she's disobedient, and try to act like it's a light little slap or whatever to try to get around it. But when I read this, I thought of it was I think a Politico article talking about Joe Biden and how he wanted to leave Afghanistan, even like under the Obama administration and stuff, and how he had become a critic of it. And people would ask him like, okay, well, what's going to happen to all these women? And he said, oh, we pulled out of like Vietnam, and like it didn't matter, or something, or basically that there was no major political blowback. So the consequences of what's going to happen to the women and everybody else, it's not going to blow back on us or whatever, and basically folks will get over it. Not like that's a huge humanitarian crisis, and I'm concerned about women's rights. It's just like, no one will care. No one will care. I'll get away with it, basically. So yeah. Horrible, horrible, horrible situation. Yeah, it's gonna take more than 20 years. But what's interesting though about Iran is that they had a lot of people who were protesting their government, the people in charge. So you already had that going on. Not us coming there to try to stir it up. People already upset. They start killing protesters. Trump is like, y'all better not do it. If you shoot them, we're gonna kill you too. Trump said that. Trump pushed that. They ignored him, and they killed tens of thousands of people. And so now Trump has said this thing and was kind of implying like, keep protest, like we're gonna be with you. And Iran ignored him. They killed protesters who expected that, hey, we're going to have some backup or whatever. So Trump doesn't look good. U.S. doesn't look good. There's some weakness there. Iran probably emboldened because they don't think the U.S. is going to do anything. And so I think, well, I don't know. It could be that Trump was looking for an opportune moment to just end them. Or it could be that Trump was looking for an off-ramp because maybe he didn't want to do something, but if they were willing to make some concessions about their nuclear program and other things like that, then he could be like, okay, well, we made a deal and they backed off, etc. I win. A very soft win or whatever, but he would claim that as a victory. I'm not positive which one is the case. Maybe the biding time into the opportune moment, because they were negotiating different stuff, but there's been other opportunities where Trump was negotiating and they weren't really negotiating. They were just biding time. So that was with Iran again. So but Iran, they at the end of the day, they don't want to play ball with how US wants them to play ball. So if they're going to be unreasonable, the US feels like it's got to flex its muscles. So you know what? We got a long list of grievances. Not only have y'all killed Americans, kidnapped Americans, y'all have sponsored all this terror that has led to American death. And by the way, you tried to kill me twice. Okay. And you kept killing these protesters. Trump doesn't like all the stuff going on. Trump doesn't like all the stuff going on, and he was willing to strike other countries when there was a lot of devastation to the people going on too in his first term. I'm not surprised he did this. People acting like, oh my gosh, this is so unlike Trump, and he's such a hypocrite, and he failed. And Trump promised you that his way of dealing with these people was bombing the crap out of them. He likes to deal with people financially, and we can strike some kind of deal, and be peace deal here, and we can all make money together. That's great. But some people don't want to do that. A lot of people don't want to do that. And unfortunately, in the Middle East, what you got to do is flex your muscles. And so they attacked. Took out leadership, like 3 levels deep. They taken out their missile capabilities, which, by the way, Iran is just firing missiles everywhere, hitting neighboring Islamic countries, and not just military bases, airports, and residential areas. So everybody acting like Iran isn't a terror to the region itself. This kind of proves that they are. Because again, they're not just firing at military places, they're firing in civilian areas, trying to just, I don't know if it's just them trying to indiscriminately kill who they can, or if their missile system is that bad. They did accidentally, maybe it was an accident, kill some kids at a school, which for some reason a lot of people still believe that the US did that. So thanks, bad media, for reporting that. Thanks, bad media. Someone said, I work at a Christian university, and this morning I heard students in class near me sing the national anthem. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. We live in a great country, y'all. So, but I don't understand people who don't understand that the U.S. is an interest in this, who think we're just doing it because of Israel. That's really not Trump's thing. They're good partners. They're very capable, and them being very capable, as Pete Hegseth said, is why they are good partners. And he actually did a dig at Europe, because he's like, unlike other traditional partners, they're not just wringing their hands together and pearl clutching. I'm like, oh my gosh. So he called them out. He called them out. So yes, they are good partners. But the US, it was the CIA intelligence that clocked the leaders are being at a particular place at a particular time, and that's why they decided to move up their timeline and attack. So that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I think maybe Trump was biding his time for the opportune moment and knew that he was probably going to strike. Because they were gearing up. I don't think you gear up for stuff just for no reason. Now, there are a lot of people who keep bringing up stuff that Charlie Kirk said in the past about not wanting regime change and not wanting to go into Iran and other things like that. It's all over the place, and a lot of people sharing his content in regard to that. Not everybody who's sharing it, but some people who are sharing his content about his feelings with Iran didn't care for Charlie Kirk that much anyway. Now, I liked Charlie. I didn't always agree with Charlie. I would disagree with some of his content, or I guess some of the ways that he would espouse his opinions. I guess tone policing is the best way you could kind of explain some of my criticisms. I guess it's fair to say I had an issue with tone police, I suppose. Some things I flat out disagreed with him on, and we didn't see eye to eye on everything. I also didn't religiously follow him, but I know that he really adored the president. And I know that he really trusted the president. So as people were sharing all this content about Charlie Kirk, what he was saying, or they're like, Charlie Kirk wouldn't want regime change, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Charlie Kirk would absolutely support President Trump. He would support President Trump. His organization was meant to support President Trump. And that's what he would push at the end of the day. I'm sure that's what he would do and try to get people on board with supporting President Trump. And then people posted this clip that I did share online this weekend, but I'm going to go ahead and play it.
And you might say, Charlie, do you support or oppose this? I support President Trump. That's my answer. I know the man. He's the commander in chief. He's the man for the hour, and he's had the weight of the world on his shoulders. So in a situation like this, I support my friend, and he's had my back and I have his. That's my perspective. By the way, I also look at this and I say, and I understand the arguments of people that, oh, don't intervene and all that. I get it. But boy, have we not exhausted so many diplomatic channels and options. Here is Netanyahu, 261, praising and congratulating President Trump.
Yeah, so it's about to cut off. But yeah, this was his response after they bombed Iran. I trust President Trump. I think his response would be, let him cook. Let's see what he does. Let's trust him. You don't have to agree with what I think Charlie Kirk would have said or my assessment. And I'm not telling you to just be like, oh, let him cook or whatever. Your opinion is whatever the heck your opinion is. But I'm pretty sure Charlie Kirk would have been like the same response. I trust my friend. I trust the president. He's the man of the hour. He has intelligence that we all don't have, that Iran, that they exhausted a lot of diplomatic means of trying to deal with them, that they are a brutal regime that has led to American death and also killed tens of thousands of their own citizens, and also tested the patience of the American might and the American president by stepping over that red line. And it is important to, I don't love red lines. But after Trump gave a red line, it's like, bro, you can't not do something but with this red line, bro. Like, it's better to not have them and not do anything. Because Obama had red lines. Biden would be like, don't. He'd whisper it, don't do that. And people would ignore that. Trump wasn't going to look like a punk, okay? Sometimes he tries to do an off-ramp or whatever, but I think it's more likely that he's probably biding time. Someone said Charlie would have 100% been on board. I think so too, but even like the Hodge twins was like posted a back and forth that they had together to prove, I guess, that Charlie would have had that opinion, but I kind of read it a different way. But which, by the way, if you follow the Hodge twins, just FYI, the Hodge twins on X is totally different than the Hodge twins on Facebook. I think someone else like runs their account on Facebook, and their Facebook will have a lot of really pro-Trump stuff. Their X account is like pro-Hitler slop, anti-Israel, ragging on Trump, Nick Fuentes adjacent kind of crap. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Hodge twins. The Hodge twins is one of the reasons I don't play my intro, by the way, because I just never edited them out. But I'm like, because I met them the first time I went to the White House at a Black History Month event. They were on like Steven Crowder show, so I knew them a little bit. And so we took a picture, and so I had a picture with them in my intro thing. And I'm like, I don't really want them in my intro anymore because they say a bunch of wild and crazy stuff, and I just never rearranged it and fixed my whole intro anymore. I will one day. But that's why that is. Let me see if I saved it. Maybe I didn't save it. But they had posted something with Charlie Kirk going, because he did a poll saying, hey, do you support regime change? And they're like, no, we don't. And then Charlie's like, I'm not saying that I support regime change, but let me ask you this. If the people, are you totally against regime change? Because if the people wanted regime change, would you support the Iranian people if they themselves wanted regime change? And so they like cursed at Charlie, and they like, we're not getting us to support regime change. We know what this is. We understand what this is, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, why are you dodging? Do you support, if the Iranian people wanted regime change, would you back them? And so from the, I don't know how that conversation ended, but they had posted that and someone's like, thanks for letting everyone know that you were always rude to him. But that little bit of Charlie Kirk saying, hey, what if the people wanted regime change? So the fact that you had all those protesters out there and that the regime had to you know, kill tens of thousands of people, I think that would have played into his mind of, okay, the US has an obligation here because we have the strength and the power to do something about it. And of course they were asking for it anyway. And would you want a regime this evil who would indiscriminately just shoot their missiles into neighboring countries at residential areas and airports and all different kind of places? Would you support them having more power? North Korea, we have to deal with them in a way we wouldn't normally deal with countries that we would that do evil things because they have a nuke. They have power that makes them just a pain to deal with. Nobody in the neighboring area wants them to have a bomb. No, they shouldn't even have like the access that they have right now. If they're going to just like, ooh, let me shoot it into this country, that country, that country. So I think Charlie would have looked at the new facts on the ground and been like, I support Trump. Perhaps I'm wrong. I don't think I am. I really don't think I am. But they've attacked Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Cyprus, Syria, and I think more than that. Just everywhere. They got an airport in Kuwait. So these people need to be slapped down. Anyway, something else that happened over the weekend that was pretty insane. There was a terror attack. Someone said stormtrooper energy. I don't know if it's just if their missile system is that bad or if they're just lashing out children who, you know, don't care what happens. But they're not making a good case for being a good regional partner. And nobody's gonna be real sad that they go. And by the way, I had heard that Tucker Carlson was upset. I don't, there's no like direct video of it. It was just kind of reporting of what he said about the attack being evil or something like that, if that's the case. But I do want to remind you that when he was talking to Ted Cruz, when they had their really contentious interview, Ted Cruz had mentioned that Iran tried to kill Trump. And Tucker acted like that wasn't true. And Ted Cruz is like, how do you not know this? We have like intelligence and reporting that they try to kill Trump. And Tucker's like, if Iran had tried to kill Trump, then we should nuke them. Like, what are you talking about? Which seems like really extreme. And of course, Tucker Carlson didn't really mean that because one, he thinks that nuclear weapons are demonic, that were inspired by the devil, and that's why we bombed Nagasaki to kill Christians, or Hiroshima to kill one of them, or whatever, to kill Christians, which was a theory that Candace Owens threw out there first. And then there's also, he talks about Gaza and all the civilians being killed there. So I don't think he genuinely thinks that we should have nuked Iran if they tried to kill our president. But he brought that up to say like that's just something that we would do or ought to do, or like that's a reasonable thing to do. So he must not actually believe that they actually tried to kill Trump. It's so anyway, they did try to kill Trump. So what we're doing there now must obviously be justified because it's still less aggressive than the nuclear option that Tucker Carlson pushed forward. Just want to throw that out there. But there was an attack on the U.S., an internal attack, a terrorist attack that had happened the other day in Texas. And when I was telling people that it happened in Texas, they're like, someone tried that in Texas? From what I hear, it happened in Austin. Austin is a more liberal area. But it happened in a bar, apparently a pretty popular bar. And I don't think you're supposed to bring guns in bars. But there was a armed shooter, 53-year-old naturalized U.S. citizen who was born in Senegal, which is a West African country. And he was wearing a shirt that said "Property of Allah," and under his shirt he had something that had like Iran on it. So I did see the image of under his shirt. I'm not gonna share it because it was bloody and stuff. So if you want to find it, CBS did have that image if you want to look for it. But Property of Allah. Now I saw some people trying, I don't know, I think they're trying to say like it's a false flag attack because they're like, I don't know any Muslims from this country who would do that for Iran and would do that wearing Property of Allah shirt. Like, who even makes that? Who even has that? Well, he has it, and he did it. What else do you want to say? Like, why would someone false flag this, I guess, is my question to people trying to make this as if it's some kind of major conspiracy. His social media presence is one that is anti-Christian, is one that's pro-Islam. So and he sound, from the different texts and stuff that I read, it's just like normal anti-Zionist slop, I guess. The Islamic Revolution is eternal and here to stay until the end of time. You Zionists and Islamophobes can be angry all you want, but you can't do a bleep thing about it, no matter what. So you are both despicable liars and disgusting racists. Was a Matt Walsh and Elon tweet. He has some posts under cursing out Laura Loomer, and I'm not a fan of Laura Loomer, but Laura Loomer under a different post where she's attacking Candace Owens, and then he curses out Laura Loomer and other stuff. So he's pro-Islamist, left-wing slop that you see on X all the time, to be frank. I don't understand why people would push like this could be a false flag. I had mentioned that someone had doxed me some time ago, and it kind of put it out there like, here, Muslims, have at her. So people definitely think they're willing to do that, I suppose. Chip Roy had tweeted about him. Let me see if I can find my Chip Roy tweet. Chip Roy said, Chip Roy's from Texas, the Islamist murderer of Americans in my home of Austin, Texas, came on a tourist visa, overstayed for years, applied for LPR status through his American citizen wife, granted under Bush, no doubt amid GOP's celebration of the joys of melting pot legal immigration, and may have divorced her, became a U.S. citizen years later under Obama, then applied for citizenship for two more of his wives in succession. Then he was arrested in Texas in 2022. This is why we are losing our country. Our immigration system is a joke and should pause all immigration. So he's saying pause all of it. I wouldn't be opposed to pausing all of it, though. My heart goes out to people who really, really do it the right way, who really, because it takes a long time to do, unless you can fast track it somehow because you're so vital, I guess, or do something really beneficial to the U.S. There was, when I went to the Philippines when I was in the 10th grade, there was someone who was following us around with a satellite phone to make sure that we weren't kidnapped. And people do that kind of stuff to get in good with the U.S. I'm not saying that he didn't care about us getting kidnapped or whatever, but they do make those certain kind of deals with the U.S. to, look better when they do try to apply for citizenship, because a lot of people obviously do want to come to the United States of America because it's a great place. And I understand a lot of people want to come here. And when people come here, a lot of friends who I know who immigrated over here legally, first generation, had to be on their very best behavior, and also had to make sure that they were financially stable and they weren't a burden on the system. So when they see these people coming in here, I don't know, so many folks having to be housed in schools that schools get shut down, or the kids have to homeschool over Zoom, and these people get all these food cards and all these different kind of benefits and free healthcare or whatever. It's just shocking and amazing to a lot of people, because they didn't get that baby behavior when they came over here. They had to prove that they were going to be on the best behavior and that they weren't going to be a burden. And overstaying your visa is obviously not a good thing. And it seems like if all the stuff with his wife's it's true, he had kind of a bit of a racket going. But yeah, he seemed, from his online presence, he just seemed to be like an angry Muslim troll who, again, says some really common stuff that I unfortunately see on X all the time. So maybe that's a little disturbing, because you never know how insane someone might be when they're coming at you online, and if they'd be willing to actually go out and hurt somebody. But the police did respond very quickly. What I read, it was like 57 seconds after receiving the call, so thank God for that. But it is a risk that there could be sleeper cells, not just people who have immigrated over here and maybe are citizens in this case of this man here, but people who may have come over recently, and not super recently, not under Trump, but like under the Biden administration, when the border was very much wide open. We don't know who all might be here. All the gotaways. So, and how many people might be radicalized? And there's a lot of places with a lot of large Muslim populations. I live, well, I mean, I guess people know I'm from Michigan. There's some pockets. And it's interesting, in Texas, there was a headline 3 weeks ago, because there's been a lot of talk about trying to ban Sharia law and stuff in Texas. So there's this headline from the New York Times: without a border invasion, Texas GOP turns to an old enemy, Islam. Republican politicians and strategists in Texas are amping up anti-Muslim rhetoric as a way to energize Republican voters after several elections when the border was the animating force. So this is what they posted, like, oh, the GOP, this is what they're focusing on. They're overreacting, blah, blah, blah. And then you got a Islamic terrorist. So I guess I don't know exactly what all to do about all this, besides, like, Chip Roy said we need to pause all immigration. My heart goes out to everybody who wants to do things legally and have been waiting, but I don't know, maybe that is the case right now. We do have a lot of people here and a lot of people who came illegally. So I don't think people agree to just pause everything though. We do obviously need to be careful about vetting. We do need to be careful about people who've already come into the country, and send those people back to somewhere. And it seems like they detain a lot of people, and they're just kind of sitting until they decide to voluntarily deport. How many people do we just pop on a plane and send them elsewhere? Because I'm seeing a lot of reports about they've been detained for X amount of days, and they can leave detention if they just self-deport. I'm like, we don't just send them away anymore. But yeah, we could deport more people. But there are a lot of people who are citizens here, and if you're concerned about Islam, we can't just get rid of everybody. That's just not how it works. But I don't know, to the Christians out there, you could pick up your Bible and go witness to someone and try to convert people. There could be a lot of armies of David Woods and God Logics and Nabil Qureshi's and so on that try to preach the gospel and try to de-radicalize these people and show that Islam is false. And you gotta bring like passion, because they respond to passion for sure. Because David Wood, he was being chastised by someone saying that he's too aggressive, and like, you need to be like this person who got Nabil Qureshi saved, and he's like, that was me. I am that same person. But what you don't understand, Nabil was his friend for 12 years and stuff. They were very careful. Not 12. I don't remember how long they were friends, but it took a while, some years before he actually converted and became a Christian. It wasn't like 12 years, but it was a long time. It might have been like 2 years or something like that, or more. But he said that a lot of Muslims, they're very aggressive and they're very passionate. And if you don't show yourself to be passionate, they don't believe that you actually believe in what you're talking about. So he says you kind of got to deal with them a different kind of way. Just pray that the Holy Spirit guides you. But the best thing we can do for some of these nations, we're not gonna, God cares about them too. And sometimes war is what you got to do. But sometimes it is just, revival is the answer. My dad was able to minister to a lot of people in Pakistan, and got a lot of people to convert. And I challenge people to make that their mission too. The U.S. government has to do what the U.S. government does, and I understand it. But let me commission you with a different task if you're available and able. And just brush up on, a bit more about the Quran. Make sure you know how to explain the gospel, the Trinity, and familiarize yourself with the Islamic dilemma. Learn a bit more about Muhammad and how the Quran itself isn't perfectly preserved, because that's what they say about Christianity. But the truth is, the Quran isn't perfectly preserved, because they'll say that ours has been corrupted and all kinds of different stuff. So I recommend this book all the time, but Nabil Qureshi's book, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus, listen to his journey of conversion, because you're going to have to deal with a lot of those sorts of the sort of resistance that he had, a lot of other Muslims will have. So if you understand how David and him went back and forth, and how eventually he didn't have a leg to stand on when it came to the Quran and Islam, that'll really help you, I think. And then the beginning of his book talks about his family and growing up. So you kind of understand that these people are still very much human, care about their families and so on, could be very patriotic, to understand how hard of a decision it could be when people convert too. So it's just a really great book. I can't recommend it enough. So that's what I challenge people to do. If you're really that concerned in Texas about Sharia law, it's Sharia law. If they want to do Sharia law, they're going to do it whether you pass a bill or not. That's just the truth about it. You're not going to be able to deport everybody, especially if they're already naturalized citizens. but you can minister to them, and hopefully God turns that heart of stone into a heart of flesh, and they'll come over and accept Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. So that's my charge to all of you. But I'm very impressed with the U.S. military. Very impressed with Pete Hegseth and Trump and others. Really, military, IDF. When you see so many. When I was in Israel, just looking at so many soldiers, I'm like, they all look like babies. Not all of them look like babies, but so many of them just look like babies. But congrats on what they are able to accomplish, and Godspeed to them, and pray for their safety and people in Iran, the civilians who just want to be free, and whatever government that they come up with after this, that they're willing to play ball, I guess. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go blacktunes.com, check different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost to stream, run my website, all that stuff. So you guys can support. I very much appreciate it, and appreciate you guys. Continue, please, to keep my family in your prayers, and I'll keep you guys updated on some things when I know some things, but we do need your prayers, and I appreciate it. And Friday I probably won't be streaming, because we do have our event for the Pregnancy Crisis Center, and if you're interested in just donating to it too, you guys can DM me on Facebook as well, and you can donate that way, like if you're not in the vicinity and can actually attend, and if you want to still maybe pay for a ticket or to sponsor or something, I appreciate it. And just DM me, and I'll get that information to you. God bless you guys.